Well, good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to attend our annual State of the State Luncheon presented by Northeast Georgia Health Systems. First, I'm going to ask Sheriff Stacy Gerard to lead us in our prayer and pledge.
A lot of you all know that I always ask for prayer requests before I do a prayer. So is any prayer requests that are in the crowd? Yes, sir.
I'd like to pray for Stan Kelly.
Okay, Ukraine.
Right now on a mission trip, and pretty amazing.
Yes. So let's remember Stan Kelly as he goes through his travels, and hopefully he'll have safe travels to and from and safe meetings while he's there. Any other prayer requests? I got a good friend that works with me at the sheriff's office, close dear friend all my life. His wife is going through some cancer screening tomorrow, so I would ask you to remember that person. I don't want to mention the name just for privacy for them until they decide what they need to do with that. So just remember that person. The Lord knows who it is. Anyone else? Anyone? Well, I am thankful to be here today, and we'll say a prayer in just a second. I'm thankful to have Will Wade and Steve Gooch as my friends. They do a great job in the community in this state, and I look out into the crowd and I see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd that I have a lot of respect for, and so I know that they do. And everybody in this room will leave a mark on the world that they have traveled through it, and I can see a lot of good marks in this room. There's a lot of people in this room that has done a lot for this county, this state, and through their travels of life. And I had to have that encouragement speech with my son just this morning as he was sitting at silent lunch at the school system. So I gave him the mark on the world speech. You know, you leave a mark on this world as you travel through it, and today is not a good mark. So I go over there and give him a little encouragement with that. But let's always be mindful of the mark that we do leave behind. Every day that we live, if someone sees something that we do, that is a mark that is placed on them. I can honestly say that Steve and Will has always took care of us at the Capitol. Anything I've ever called them with, they've always been diligent with it. I appreciate that with the Georgia Sheriff's Association, and as one of your fellow sheriffs of the district that you cover, I appreciate all you do with that. I truly do. But saying that, I'll go into the blessing and just know that I'm thankful to be here again today, and let's remember those prayer requests, okay? All right. Lord, we just thank you for another day of life, and we thank you for the opportunity to be here. We thank you for these men that will be speaking here in just a minute, Lord. We're thankful of the services that they have done, the services they continue to do. Thankful for all the people that are here gathered today to partake in this meal, the ones that have represented their families and their businesses, the ones that have shown up. Lord, we ask you to be with those, and if there's any conflict amongst those, just keep your hands around them and keep them in the right direction. We ask for prayer requests for the ones that we know that's going through troubles and trials, and ones that are seeking going on traveling, the ones that are going through testing, and everything that's going on in their life. Just be with them, Lord. You know the direction of the travel that they're in. You know the end of the road. We have faith in that and comfort in that. We ask you to be with this food, let it nourish our bodies, be the ones that's prepared it, and be with us as we lead and guide throughout the rest of our days. And let us always have a good mark that we leave behind in this world. Thank you very much, Lord, for all you've done. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, if we can say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank
you. Before we get started, we're going to do a special presentation. I'm going to ask our chairman, Mark Spraker, to come up.
Thank you, Rob. One of the nice things about being the chair of the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce is that periodically you're asked to come give something away or embarrass someone. Today I get to do both. For the past year, the Chamber Board has been blessed with the presence of a representative from the University of North Georgia student body. Betsy Wilcoxis has done a wonderful job in representing UNG and in helping us in a lot of our endeavors, both through her job as a student and her job working in the legal area in the I used to be able to speak community. So we have a little presentation that we'd like to give her, and I'd like Betsy to come forward. For those of you who can't read from this distance, the plaque says, "Presented to Betsy Wilcoxis, thank you for your service on the Board of Directors 2020-2022. Thank you so much. Thanks, Rob.
The Dahlonega-Lumpkin County Chamber of Commerce mission is to increase prosperity, attract visitors, advocate for all businesses, and develop leaders to promote the welfare of our community. We advocate for all businesses through our Government Affairs Committee, chaired by Chuck Jones, that organizes such events as State of the City and County, State of Education, State of Economic Development. Please visit our Facebook and YouTube channels to see our most recent program, The State of the City and the State of the County, as well as this program. And this program is being streamed live right now with our media partner, Fetch Your News, and we'll also post it to our YouTube channel in a week. I would like to recognize two guests we have here today. We have Andrea Wiggins. She's from Senator Raphael Warnock's office. She's done a ton of community outreach to us, and we appreciate her being here. Grab one of her cards later before you leave today. And Jordan Black, she's a field representative with Representative Andrew Clyde's office. So we're happy to have both of you here today. Our programs... Our programs and events aren't possible without the support of our sponsors, partners, and volunteers. Our presenting sponsor is Northeast Georgia Health Systems, and Sonia, I saw you came in right on time here. Sonia is going to come up and tell us a little bit about Northeast Georgia Health Systems, and I will say, if you didn't come to the Inspire Luncheon where she was our guest speaker about a week ago, you missed a wonderful, wonderful day. So, Sonia?
Thank you so much, Rob. It is always a joy and a privilege to be part of this group. You're probably waiting for me to tell you the same story about our new hospital, but today I just want to do a little PSA. We are so grateful that the COVID pandemic is a little bit more under control. It's nice to see everybody unmasked and in public, but we just want to remind everyone to get back on schedule with some diagnostic testing. I know everyone is really excited to talk about colonoscopies right at the time you're eating this delicious lunch. But we find that over the last 2 years, it was really easy to put off some of those testing when we didn't want to be in the hospital environment. But it's a great time to schedule things like colonoscopies, like diagnostic imaging, lung screening, mammograms. It's a great time to do that. There's plenty of open times with your physician's offices. So do that. This is a great time for self-care. But on the Lumpkin new facility groundbreaking front, please mark your calendars for June 22nd. We will have our official groundbreaking. We are on schedule to open our new facility on 400 in the fall of 2023, but we want you there, shovels in hand, on June 22nd. As always, it is a privilege to be part of this community, and thank you, Rob, so much for leading this chamber.
Our gold sponsor is Truist Bank, and I'm going to turn it over to our Government Affairs Chuck, who's also works for Truist Bank when he's not working for the Chamber.
Thank y'all very much. These are my favorite events, and I want to thank Steve and Will and Andrea and all the city and county and local officials and the college for coming out. Being informed about your community is really important in our state. And while I'm not a native Georgian, I love this state, and this is my home for the rest of my life. So I've got a vested interest in it. And everybody here is really welcome Debbie and I, and we love this community. At Truist, we want to inspire and build better lives and communities. And that's not just a saying on a tagline on a billboard. Anything we can do to help the community, we want to do that. And we want to thank everybody in this community for helping us get through the last 3 years as we merged SunTrust and BB&T, now Truist. And thank you for all the support you've given us. Rob, thank you.
Our silver sponsors are the University of North Georgia. Dr. Jacobs, please come up. And I always tell Dr. Jacobs, I make a point every time I see her to tell her how much I appreciate the university's support of the chamber. We have Mark and Betsy and Bird and just tons of people that help the chamber run. So I appreciate all they do for us.
Thank you. And I think you all know that we work really hard to recruit strong students. And then we work really hard to help them to grow up and build character and to be very successful later. We are blessed in that we're not having enrollment decreases like some of our sister institutions, and that we also are maintaining a very high retention rate. Now that's where you come in, because we have no doubt but what being in the Dahlonega community contributes significantly both to recruiting and retaining these students. When they come for tours, we get sometimes where the parents are encouraging them to come and look, and they may come a little hesitantly, but then they fall in love with the town and with the university. And I do understand that sometimes our students create a little traffic problem. And I do appreciate you being patient with our students. Just remember how much they spend at Walmart and the gas stations. Thank you so much.
I talked to Deanna about coming up to speak for Kinetic by Windstream. She said that's Michael Forr's job. So Michael's not here today, but I will say we appreciate their partnership with the Development Authority. And the Development Authority, you can fill out a little survey. We've got some great partnerships between a federal grant and a state grant. And if you are concerned about having fast broadband, fill out that interview and don't use the chamber link because I put the wrong link in this last newsletter. So I'll make sure the right one's in there the next time. Our bronze sponsors are Jackson EMC. Tate, would you like to come up and tell us a little bit about Jackson EMC?
Choose the wrong side of the room to sit. Good afternoon. I'm Tate O'Rourke with Jackson EMC. Jackson EMC is a not-for-profit electric cooperative serving 10 counties in northeast Georgia, including a part of Lumpkin County here in my territory. I work out of our Gainesville district office, and it's a pleasure to be with you all and to sponsor this event. This is a no-brainer, so I have to tell a small little story about Will. Some of you in the room I've known for quite a while. I used to work for Senator Johnny Isakson as his regional director, much like Andrea works for Senator Warnock now, and you get to travel all around a certain territory and get to meet some amazing folks and some amazing communities, and some stand out more than others. And I'll never forget the fall of 2009, very green on the job. I go to this Georgia Mountains Regional Commission meeting, and who do I meet but this young banker, Will Wade. And to see where Will is today and how well he is representing this part of the state, and when I first met him, you knew he was destined for some really great things. So you're doing a wonderful job. And of course, Senator Gooch, such a friend to the EMCs, especially Jackson EMC. There's nobody that's been a better champion for rural broadband in our state than Senator Steve Gooch. And so we have a lot to be thankful for in his leadership. Y'all are incredibly well represented by these two gentlemen, both here and in Atlanta, and it's a pleasure to be with you all today.
And David Robertson, his Charles Schwab office, is our other bronze sponsor. David, would you like to come up and talk? And we won't hold it against you that you sat next to Lance there.
Just trying to make Lance look good by sitting by him. So, as he said, I'm David Robertson. Good afternoon, everyone. My wife and I moved here to Dahlonega 7 years ago this week. And 2.5 years ago, I opened a Charles Schwab office in Dawsonville. Don't hold that against me. That's where they put me. We're right off of 400 as you head back towards Kroger on the right-hand side. One of the big reasons I love to be with Charles Schwab is because they cater to all investors. So if you're just a do-it-yourselfer and you like to do your own research and your financial planning, we offer that. If you need a little bit of help and guidance along the way, we can do that for you. And if you want your whole accounts managed by Schwab or one of our partners. We offer that as well, and we do all this at one of the lowest fees in the industry. So now you know where I'm at. Stop by sometime and say hello, or if you have any questions for me, stop in as well or give me a call. And we are a for-profit, but Schwab is very big into charity work, and I do a little nonprofit commercial for you. I do volunteer over at the Racing Hall of Fame in Dawsonville, and Saturday the 11th we're having a classic car auto auction. So bring your credit cards with you and cashier's checks. Thank you again for coming out, and thank you for supporting the chamber.
Well, that was a perfect segue, because if you want to go buy one of those classic cars, Chuck Jones just happens to lead the loan for auto industry in Truist Bank. So see Chuck and David on the way out, and we'll get you set. So Chuck is our Governmental Affairs Chair, and he's going to be introducing our speakers today. Chuck?
Thanks, Rob. I do have a big budget at Truist this year, so please go out and keep buying cars regardless of the inventory shortage. I need all the help I can get, so we really appreciate your support. I wanted to talk about Senator Gooch. You know, he was elected in 2010 to the Georgia Senate, representing the 51st District. In 2014, he was elected as the Majority Whip, but that doesn't really describe all the things that he does in our community. There's no segment of this community or this North Georgia that Steve hasn't touched, whether it be the university. He was instrumental in helping us. I'm the chairman of the Development Authority for Lumpkin County and getting the broadband, and that was $3.77 million to help serve the residents of this community. And he does this all the time, quietly, unassumingly, helping us behind the scenes, whether it's a new building or a new program at UNG, the local high school, the Development Authority, all the different areas that he's touched. And he has just done a tremendous job for us, so I'm really proud of what Steve's done. He also has, I wanted to call out his wife. I told Steve I was going to do this before it. Shannon is a fellow alumnus of Leadership Lumpkin County, which is a program that the Dahlonega-Lumpkin County Chamber puts on. And she put all of us to shame. I think she's still the record holder for most volunteer hours. And it's been a few years she's been in the class, but she's also very active in the community and supporting Steve and his work. And they have 3 children, Samuel, Seth, and Sawyer. So with that, I'll turn it over to Steve.
Thank you, Chuck. Good afternoon. It's great to be home. Let me put this up a little higher for vertically less challenged people. There we go. I flew over the mountain from Union County. We had the similar event over in Blairsville this morning, Chamber of Commerce event, where we talked a lot about the same thing we're going to talk about here today, and that is the state of the state and how great the economy's going and how things are going, not only here at home, but in Atlanta and the rest of the state as well. We just finished up a long session. This has been a very unusual session. Obviously, it's an election year. You've got a governor's race. All your state-elected constitutional officers are on the ballot this year. Of course, myself and Will Wade are on the ballot this year running for office. That's a little shameless plug for Will. And then you've got U.S. Senate races. So it's an important year for our state. But with all the politics that go on at the Capitol, we still have a job to do, and that is to run the state, manage our resources, manage your funds, your tax dollars to make sure that they're well spent. And I can honestly say today that I think that the state is in the best shape that it's ever been in. If you look at our fund balance, it's at a record level. We have a high rainy day fund now, the best we've ever had. We still have the highest bond rating in the country with other states, obviously, but we have a AAA bond rating. And that's primarily because of the good fiscal management policies that we have in place. Our budget this year has exceeded $30 billion, which is also the highest it's ever been. That's not necessarily a happy thing, but it's a fact. Our population continues to grow. As you all know, we just finished our census and reapportionment last fall. So we have in excess of 10.5 million people in Georgia, which is a record number as well. So with population growth, also the growth of government increases with that on a proportional basis. We have the lowest per capita expenditure of any other state in the Southeast. If you look at our revenues on our budget and compare that to other states, we spend less per person than the other states around us. And that, again, it shows that we manage your resources well. The budget this year, we had a $3 billion surplus going into our amended budget due to the good policies and good tax policies that we've adopted over the last few years. Also because of people like you, the businesses in our state have come to Georgia. You've decided to invest your money, your hard-earned money, whether you borrow it and you invest it wisely, you hire our people, you invest in your infrastructure, and you provide jobs to our state. And by that being at the level that it is, we have had the best economic times in history. Our unemployment has now hit an all-time low ever. Our revenues are up because of your business and all of your investment in our state, so we appreciate that. With that $3 billion, we spent part of it on our people. All of our state employees got a $5,000 pay raise in that amended budget. Our school teachers in the state have now received a $5,000 raise that was accumulated over the last 3 years. Governor Kemp made that promise when he took office. We funded the last $2,000 of that $5,000 promise this year in our amended budget. It'll carry forward. We have people in the DOT that are literally entry-level positions making $12.50 an hour. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't live on that. And so we had to make some adjustments across the board on a lot of those jobs. A lot of the entry-level positions in the state government have seen a $3 to $4 an hour increase just in order to compete and stay at a position where we could keep those employees on the job. We're seeing some departments in our state agencies with a 90 to 95% turnover rate. And that's per year. That's not over a 10-year period. The sheriff has some of that in his department. When you have jailers that are making $15 an hour, they can go to work at a fast food restaurant and make the same wage. It makes it hard for the sheriff and other local governments to be able to compete as well. And so there's a lot of pressure on all of us to find ways to compete for those good employees. And so we raised the pay, we gave the bonuses to those employees, and they're paid retroactively. Going forward, they will receive that $5,000 increase. We believe that's going to give us a position to be able to retain those good quality employees and be a little more picky on who we hire going forward. We have state prisons that are privatized that had the same problem. We had to spend extra money in this year's budget to allow them to raise their pay as well. We have correction officers working 50 and 60 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. That's not sustainable when you're having that much overtime throughout your prison systems. A lot of things can go wrong if you're understaffed and you're overworking your employees. Some of the key legislation that we pass is on a handout that's on your table. I would encourage you to look over it. Those are some of the priorities that the Senate passed this year. And of course, a bill has to go through both chambers. A House bill, once it passes the House, it comes over to the Senate and goes through the committee process just like it does over in the House, and then it goes back to the House a lot of times for an agree or disagree and before it goes to the governor's desk. Some of these bills that you'll read about are bills that started in one chamber or the other and had significant changes before it was finally passed. One bill that I'll talk about is the gas tax. You know, we've seen incredible inflation hit our state over the last 12 to 14 months. We see gasoline now at the pumps at $4 to $4.50 a gallon. Luckily, the prices are starting to drop. I was in Blairsville this morning. I bought gas for $3.41 a gallon. It's a lot cheaper over there than it is here. I can't tell you why. That's just capitalism. But one of the things that we did in this session to help lower the cost of gas, to reduce the burden on the citizens of Georgia, was that we suspended the gas tax until May 31st. Currently, if you go to get a gallon of gas at a gas pump, you're paying $3 or $4 a gallon, but 50 cents of that is going to the government, whether that's local, state, or federal. The state tax is about 30 cents a gallon for gasoline and about 34 cents a gallon for diesel. So we suspended that, hoping that the gas stations would do the right thing and lower the price of gas. Some gas stations did, others we're not so sure about. That's a good question. We should ask them. But that tax will be relieved through the end of March or through the end of May. The loss of revenue is about $157 million a month to the DOT. That's how we fund our transportation projects. All these bridges that you see us working on, all these roads that are being resurfaced, all of that is funded through your gas tax. Since we suspended that money, there's $150 million plus or minus a month. That now will have to be backfilled from the general fund. And so the governor has decided to take that money out of the rainy day fund, which is in excess of $3.5 billion. He will transfer that over to the DOT so we don't kill some good projects that are underway around our state. A lot of things that happened in this session got politicized. One of the things that we talk about, already heard that no one in the room is wearing a mask. Well, thank goodness we're past that point in our time. The last 2 years have been very difficult. This pandemic has been crucial. It's hurt a lot of families. We've all experienced it. We've had friends and family that have died from it, so I won't make light of it. It's a very serious illness. It impacted every person in Georgia. We're glad that it's behind us. We're moving on. Hopefully we've learned from it. One of the things that we did learn, I think, was that a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old doesn't need to be wearing a mask to go to class. That's one of the things that we've realized over the last 12 to 18 months. The governor took the lead on that. We passed a bill that would basically allow the parent to make the decision on what's best for their child, not a bureaucrat in Atlanta. So that bill passed. The governor signed it. It's the Unmasked Georgia Students Act, carried by Senator Clint Dixon. He's one of the floor leaders. Pass on. I'm going to let Will come up and talk about the education bills. I think there were several other education bills that are important that you need to hear about, and Will is our education czar now. His background in being on the school board in Dawson County has been very instrumental, and he has led in the House on all the education issues. One of the things that we worked on this year that was very important to all of us in the room that believe in the Constitution, and that's our Second Amendment rights. Georgia constitutional carry bill passed the House and the Senate this year, and the governor's already signed it. Other than the sheriff, anybody else want to volunteer that they brought their handgun with them today? Nobody wants to admit it. All right. Well, I believe strongly in the Second Amendment. I carry a weapons license in my wallet because the law tells me I have to. Criminals don't care what the law is. You believe that. If a criminal wants a gun, they're going to get one. They're going to steal yours, or they're going to go and break into a gun store. They're going to take it out of their neighbor's house, or whatever it takes to get it. They're going to sell drugs. They're going to find a weapon. We don't believe we should punish law-abiding citizens by requiring them to go to the probate court to get a license to carry a handgun, something that we believe strongly is guaranteed in the Second Amendment of our Constitution. This bill passed this year pretty much straight down party lines. I think we may have had one Democrat in the Senate and maybe two in the House, but it was pretty much a political vote. This bill allows us as law-abiding citizens to be able to pick up our weapon, conceal it, carry it wherever we want, except where prohibited by law. There's still prohibitions. You cannot carry a gun into this courthouse next door. You can't carry it into any government facility where there's a security guard with an x-ray machine or what have you. But anywhere else, you're pretty much allowed to carry this gun concealed. We do not believe it will lead to crime. We believe it could reduce crime. If you look at the crime that's occurring in downtown Atlanta, especially in Buckhead and other parts of the city, people are shooting each other in the streets every day and every night. Turn on the news and you'll see it for yourself. We're one of 22 other states that have this law and already in provision, and we believe it's a step in the right direction in restoring people's rights. We grew up in rural Georgia. Most of us did that are in the room. We believe that food is grown on the farms. Everybody in here understand that? Some people still believe food is grown at Walmart. It's not. It comes from the farm. A lot of people move into the rural areas of our country, into our state, and they move into a nice, pretty home on a couple-acre tract of land, and about twice a year they smell this odor in the air, and it's chicken litter. or it's cows, it's dairy farms, it's noise from roosters crowing about 6:45 in the morning when the sun comes up. Next thing you know, they go to court. They get a lawyer, and they find somebody like Zach Tumlin to represent them, right? Laura, you can tell him I'm picking on him. And they sue the farmer for a nuisance. And so the farmer has to go hire Zach Tumlin to defend them. And they go to court and they put it in front of a jury. Well, who knows who's going to win that? You don't want to put a decision like that in the hands of 12 people without good, strong reasons. And so we passed a bill called the Freedom to Farm Act. And this bill took 3 years to pass. It wasn't easy. And the intent was to protect farms. It was to protect farmers who had been here for decades, whether it's in North Georgia on a small poultry farm, or if you're down in South Georgia on a 5,000-acre crop farm. We have issues in being able to protect our farmers, protect the freedom to farm so they can produce these goods to put to the grocery stores that we just ate here in this room. I'm going to name off the 10 Georgia commodities. A lot of people don't realize what all we have in Georgia. Broilers, cotton, peanuts, beef, timber, greenhouse, corn, blueberries, dairy, and hay. Those are the 10 biggest commodities in Georgia in our ag industry. Agriculture and tourism are our biggest industries in Georgia. They compete with one another. Most people believe that the peach is the biggest crop in Georgia, but it's actually the blueberry. These are important to us. We passed this bill to basically level the playing field, let the farmers that are here be protected so there's not a lot of frivolous lawsuits in the court system. And that bill passed. Believe it or not, a lot of Democrats voted against that too. I never could figure out the issue there. We heard a little bit about the hospital opening up next year, and that's something that I'm very, very proud of and worked on for 3 years now. And I was glad to help Nathan Deal when he was our governor and working with the university system with Dr. Jacobs to purchase this existing hospital up here on Crown Mountain with the eventual plan to have the new hospital down on Georgia 400. Georgia hospitals are in trouble in certain spots. We've lost several rural hospitals. One of the bills that we're proud that we passed this year was a rural tax credit for rural Georgia hospitals. This bill had already passed several years ago, but we increased the cap on that. And let me explain what it does. It allows all of us, if we pay our Georgia income tax every year like we're supposed to on April 15th, instead of sending that income tax check to the Department of Revenue, you can actually donate part of that to a rural hospital in Georgia, and you get a dollar for dollar reduction on your obligation on your tax bill. So instead of paying $4,000 or $5,000 to the Department of Revenue for income tax, you can give maybe half of it to the local hospital, and that gives you the credit as if you paid the entire amount to the Department of Revenue. We think it's a good incentive to help our rural hospitals. Northeast Georgia Medical Center qualifies here in Lumpkin County. So do some of the other rural hospitals in the community around us. So we hope you'll consider that in the future. If you need more information about that, I'm sure your tax preparer or your CPA can help you with that. Last year we passed a bill dealing with election integrity. That's something that we continue to hear about over and over again. SB 202 passed last year in the previous session. We continue to work on issues pertaining to integrity of our elections. That's something that we all feel very, very important. It is very important. I believe there'll be more legislation on that in the coming years. I don't think we're finished working on that. We want to continue to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to vote, but we want to eliminate every opportunity to cheat. And that's something that we worked on again this year. One of the bills that we passed did not get out of the Senate as like we would like for it to, but I think come January we will see that come back up for another vote. And last thing I'll talk about before we close out is the mental health bill, and I think Will may discuss it as well. That was House Bill 1013. It came out of the House obviously first, and it had almost a unanimous vote, 3 or 4 no votes on that. It came to the Senate. The Senate worked on this for about 2 weeks. We brought in some extra help. Some lawyers in our offices worked on it for a good 2 solid weeks. We listened to the concerns of a lot of our citizens out there in the state. We made significant changes to it, passed it out of the Senate unanimously. It went back to the House, and they agreed to it unanimously as well. Those are some of the bipartisan things that you don't hear about in the news. Everybody thinks everything down there is a tug of war between Democrats and Republicans. That is an example of a bipartisan bill that really we hope will do good things in the future. I'll give you some examples. Your local jail probably has inmates in there today that shouldn't be in jail. They should be either in a hospital or they should be under care of a psychiatrist or a psychologist. They need mental health. There's people down in Atlanta living under bridges. They live on the streets. When you walk from the parking deck to the Capitol, you see them literally sleeping on concrete sidewalks, on sleeping bags and pillows and blankets. Everything they own is in a duffel bag beside them. When they get up at daylight and they get pushed away, they literally walk downtown Atlanta the entire day looking for giveaways, free food or drinks just to live. These people don't have families, they don't have a network, they don't have a support system. The state of Georgia has been lagging probably in last place around the country for mental health help. This bill will go a long ways toward trying to give some of these people the help that they need. It was a right, humane thing to do. The leadership in the House took a strong lead on this 2 years ago. Our former Representative Kevin Tanner had a study committee on it for about 2 years, which led to the creation of this bill. I think you'll continue to hear more about this over time. There'll be tweaks on the bill as we see things that are working good. If things aren't working, we'll make tweaks to it. Before I close out, I'll just talk a little bit about transportation because that's something near and dear to my heart. I work on just about every day in our district. A lot of transportation projects that are going on around the community. You see the roundabouts out on 52 West and 9 South. The intersection is open now. The roundabout at Oak Grove Road was a partnership between the state and the city and the county. That's working well. We're resurfacing several state routes here in the county. Just this week they started work on Crown Mountain from Pizza Hut down to the bridge. That's simply an overlay of asphalt to help with the skidding. Whenever it rains, you have cars hydroplaning because of the steep elevated grades on that hill. So this special asphalt is going to be put down that will help reduce some of that hydroplaning and give you more friction on your car. So that's some of the things that are going on. A long-term project that we're working on that I've been instrumental in getting some help on is the extension of Georgia 400 up Long Branch Road. The eventual plan is to send that 4-lane from Georgia 400 all the way over into Cleveland at what we call the Appalachian Parkway, which is where the new 4-lane just opened 2 years ago. That's a long-term project that I project could be 10 years or longer in the works, but there has been some monies allocated for engineering studies to look at the road alignments and the impacts that it would have not only on the environment but on people's homes too. There will be displacements involved. People will lose their homes. Anytime you take a 2-lane road and you do a 4-lane divided highway or any kind of widening, it's going to impact someone's life. So those are things that are in the works. Broadband, we're happy to announce about $174 million was just awarded to Windstream. They were the biggest recipient in the state. We gave over $400 million of ARPA funds out for broadband deployment around the state. We've been working on rural broadband now for 5 years. Dina Perry has been a champion as well. She was our state coordinator of broadband. She was the first executive director ever hired for broadband in the Department of Community Affairs. Windstream realized what an asset she was to us, so they obviously competed with the salary and they recruited her. Now she works for Windstream, but it's been great working with Dina, and I look forward to doing great things. Lumpkin County is going to be, within 2 years, we're going to have broadband almost throughout the county with the help of the Development Authority and Rebecca and the board of the Development Authority, and of course the partnership that we have with Windstream. We're excited because it's something that we know is a must. People can't sit at home any longer and do work without internet access. I compare the internet to what the interstate system did back in the 50s and 60s. It literally connected our cities and our states around the country. The internet's done the same thing. One of the reasons our economy has grown so well is because of the marketplace facilitator legislation that passed a couple years ago that opens up all of these online apps. Local governments are now being able to collect the taxes that were due to them before they weren't. They could not go out of the state and collect that money because they did not have authority to do so. the internet's going to open up a lot of opportunities for all of us, whether that's here at the university or in your basements or whatever. So we're proud of that work, and we'll continue to see that progress going forward. And one last shout out for the university. We continue to see great things happening here in our community. We are proud to have a university in our hometown. We've continued to put more and more money into the university where their needs are and where their growth is. We see a lot of growth here on campus in Dahlonega, but we're also seeing growth in Cumming. They have a new facility in the budget this year for a new academic building, and also over in the Blue Ridge campus, they were funded this year for an expansion as well. So good job, UNG, and Mark, good job on your program. You're the leading cybersecurity program in the U.S., right? With Billy. So y'all, the people in the community may not know that, but we have one of the best cybersecurity programs in the U.S. right here on this campus. So thank you for all that. I'll take questions after Will gets finished with his comments. Thank you.
I'm very pleased to introduce Will Wade, who is our state representative for Lumpkin County. He's serving his first term, and he is running for re-election. That's my shameless plug. But before that, education, and Steve talked about it in his remarks. He was on the school board in Dawson County for 15 years. So this isn't something he's doing just to be politically expedient. He's always cared about education, and he does it in our community all the time, really supporting it. He's also a former member of the Government Affairs Committee for the Dahlonega-Lumpkin County Chamber of Commerce, and helped us there, so I appreciate all he's done. He is married to Jennifer Sheffield Wade, who is a doctor and a lifetime educator at Lumpkin County. And I will speak about his two children. If you ever want to see photogenic children for commercials, Jenna and Walker are perfect for that, so use them every you can. I've seen them in campaign ads, and I've seen them off script, and they do a great job. But he's done a tremendous amount in his first term. I look forward to what he does in the future, and with that, I'll turn it over to Will.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here in my alma mater town. And, it's hard to follow a senator when he covers 90% of what you were going to cover. But he does such a good job, I can't get in his way. And that's a lot of what we experience down at the Capitol, where you've got the Senate and the House, and there's a little bit of camaraderie, but there's also some competition. And I will yield to my friend in the Senate today. He definitely did a good job covering our session. I will touch on a few things, and I want to take this chance just to thank the chamber here, the community members. As a representative, I'm just blessed to be the voice for you guys as we make policy in Atlanta. I don't consider myself to be, somebody was picking on me earlier, and they were saying, I said, I wonder where they want us to sit. And he said, you get to sit up front. You're one of the, I don't know, he called me big dog or something. I'm like, I'm still just Will. I'm here to try to listen to concerns and be that voice to make sure that, we advocate for good policy and we stand up against bad policy. And, I actually kind of learned that initially, and I was very appreciative of what Miss Tate said. And she's a friend, a longtime friend, and my wife and her also had the opportunity to be carrying at the same time. We both have children that are the same age, and I think she had twins, so bless her heart, she had the real hard work. But I got to meet her in Washington, D.C. when I was representing Georgia at an educational conference, and I got to interact with former Senator Johnny Isakson. And to me, that is the type of leader that I aspire to serve as. And not that I always agree with every single policy position that Senator Isakson did, but what Senator Isakson always did was he spent time listening, and he always was present and genuine. And that's my goal. And one of the things that this year was challenging is when you take on really tough issues, that kind of has become my goal as a legislator. As a freshman, I worked very diligently on a very tough issue. It was school choice and a small slide expansion to special needs scholarships. And I'm a public education person, and people were like, why are you carrying this voucher bill? And I'm like, I'm not carrying a voucher bill, I'm carrying a piece of legislation that's going to help a very small subset of the population that currently isn't being taken care of. And I want to find those needles in the haystack to find opportunity to fix those issues that sometimes people just don't want to spend the time and energy fixing. This session, that came to me in the form of the discussion around the divisiveness of our politics in the day as it relates to education, especially K-12. And I'm a believer that the vast majority of teachers in this state do a phenomenal job of talking about difficult situations in our past and our history in a completely professional and academically appropriate manner. But we also see the national media pushing agendas that is trying to bring back difficult discussions of history in our past. And lots of folks were calling us. I know, Steve, I'm sure you had calls about, look, this is what's going on in this school system. And oftentimes it's not something that's happening here in our district, but it's happening in some of the larger metropolitan areas. And those constituents have legislators that come to me because I'm the person that has an education background. So I met with our leadership and I said, yeah, I'll start working on the issue. So I started on this, pretty much during the summer after last session. And I was happy to tell you, I worked with local folks in our school system. I even worked with folks at the university system talking about this issue. And if you'll look in the handout, there's a page there, House Bill 1084, which did pass in the House, went to the Senate. We made a couple of tweaks on language. To my attorney friends in the room, I love your wordsmithing capability. It's welcomed. Sometimes not the most appropriate timing when you're thinking you're done, and then they're like, we need to change this line, and we prefer this word. I'm like, it means the same thing. I'm not going to argue with an attorney because it costs too much. So we're just fine. We'll change the word. But ultimately, the materiality of what we did, it lays out in Georgia what I believe will help prevent this continuous divide that we have politically in the state and in the nation, and avail kids the opportunity to learn about history in a factual presentation without laying blame to those children in the classroom. Again, this is one of those things that's being proactive. It's not just waiting for something bad to happen, but also just let's allow parents an opportunity to raise their hand and have a seat at the table. And we have a vibrant community here where parents are engaged. But folks, there are some systems in which they make it very difficult for parents to engage in communicating with their school boards or even their local school leadership. It's a tough job. And in the environment that we're in now, one tweet, one Facebook post can take an entire week of energy because it causes disruption. And how do we allow for teachers in the classroom that just want to make sure that they're, teaching math, teaching science, teaching history, teaching language? How do we ensure that parents can just raise their hand and ask a question like, is this appropriate? So House Bill 1084 focused in on the issues relating to divisive concepts. And we just defined 9 divisive concepts that aren't going to be taught in K-12. That's it. We also understand that the national media is pushing an agenda where some people believe that it's okay for biological males to compete against females in athletics. I just happen to believe flies in the face of what Title IX was passed for. My mom told me stories about her experience as a child, as an Air Force brat, when she moved to Warner Robins, and she had come from a state that had certain girl sports, and when she got to Georgia, they didn't have those sports in the 60s. Title IX allowed women to have the same opportunity as men. It's not an anti-anything. It's a pro-girl opportunity just to make sure that in this state, the Georgia High School Association, which governs high school athletics, they will have a policy that ensures that biological males continue to compete against biological females. Biological females can continue to compete against biological females. And if there's not a sport that a biological female wants to compete in, Title IX allows them to do that. So if your daughter, like my daughter, wants to be a kicker, she's a second grader, she's kicking everything in sight right now, including her little brother, which we're trying to, that's that mark you don't want to leave. But, I want her to have that opportunity, right? She also is very interested in gymnastics, and I want to ensure that she's going to have that level playing field. And House Bill 1084 does just that, and we believe that's going to be signed next week by the governor. The parent, thank you. If you want to clap, that's fine. The other bipartisan bill that didn't get talked about, I want to tell you about this too, and this is, I think, an important. I'm a fan of mothers because my wife was a phenomenal mother to be, and she's an amazing mother for both of our children. I can remember, especially our first child, the difficulties of the pregnancy and postpartum and treatment and just that life experience. And my wife and I are blessed. We're very educated. You know, she had siblings, I had siblings. But when you're a new parent, and you're a new mother especially, there are some things that just aren't easy. And in this state, we have now expanded the postpartum care from 6 months to 1 year. And every educator in this room will tell you the difference that's going to make from a just child development opportunity to make sure those mothers have the fullness of that first year to be engaged with their child and to have proper care. That was a unanimous bipartisan effort, and I think it was one that I'm very proud of being a yes vote on that. And, you know, there may be some people that are, hey, we don't need to have government in healthcare. Well, government is in healthcare. It's a matter of how much it needs to be and can it provide appropriateness. And to me, this is making sure that insurance companies do what they should do, and that is to allow for 1 year worth of postpartum care. And I think that was a really important bill that also passed. I'm also a person that kind of sometimes as a freshman legislator, you get to ask questions that sometimes can get you in trouble, and then also sometimes it get you put on a committee that you didn't necessarily want to be on. And there's a folk in the room, I'll go ahead and say her initials are Debbie Jones. No. She's been asking me this question, and I, as a person who has an accounting degree, this has bothered me for years. Very excited about the tax plan. We're going to have a tax cut that's going to be 5.49, then it's going to go down to 4.99. There's very good details that are laid out in the packet that you have. But one of the things that has just irked me for a long time, there's two really. I dropped one bill this year that got me in trouble, but that's another story. And that is to get rid of all intangible taxes. As a community banker, I've seen that every single time you borrow money against a piece of property and you borrow for longer than 3 years, you have to pay a tax based on the amount of your borrowings. Now, to me, as a person who believes in business, to me that's just an additional burden, and you're already paying property taxes on it to local communities. And an intangible tax, there's parity issues because currently credit unions don't collect it. National credit unions have to collect it. Some counties don't have it. Most counties do. Banks are required to collect it. And for the folks that are in the agriculture community and folks that are in the small business community, when you go and buy a piece of property, you're already paying transfer tax, property tax. Now you got to pay a fee to borrow money. And what if you have a business that you have to re-up that loan every 3 to 4 years? You're paying that tax every 3 to 4 years. And, it's not popular with counties and cities. I filed it for one purpose. I want to start a conversation. Like, is there a way that we can talk about what's the genesis of this tax? What's the revenue it's bringing in? I'm not trying to take away revenue from local governments. I'm trying to look for the best interests of the property owner, the taxpayer, and entrepreneurism. So how can we get those folks at the table? You file a bill, you can get people to call you. They'll, what are you trying to do? But over the summer, over this fall, I'm going to be meeting with folks from GMA, ACCG, the Small Business Council, NFIB, and we're going to try to look at this, and the Ways and Means Chairman, Shaw Blackman, from a little bit south of us, Warner Robins area, he's going to let me be a part of that conversation. And to me, that means we're going to tackle something that's important. And we're not going to do it just off the cuff. But because you file a bill to eliminate something, people think, what are you trying to do off the cuff? That was fun, House leadership. What are you doing, Will? Want to have a conversation. So you learn. Next time I might ask. I don't know. I may not. That's just kind of how I'm wired. But the other piece that I'm excited about is taking up the issue that Debbie cares about and I care about is how many of you guys are expecting to get a tax refund soon based on the tax refund that we passed? Yeah, right? Those checks are going to start going out sometime end of this month, beginning of May. They're going to range from $250 to $500 depending on your tax status and your family status. How many of y'all know that sometimes when you get a tax refund the next year, you have to file that and you pay taxes on it the following year? How many of anybody love doing that? If you love doing that, you be you. You just keep doing that But I don't like it. I just think it's ridiculous. That's a tax on a tax. And as a banker, that's usury. So I want to get rid of that. And there are qualifications in the code that it's just difficult. It's one of those wonky, very minute issues. It's not a huge dollar amount statewide, so somebody hasn't taken that on. Well, I'm a freshman. I ain't got a lot of committees. Let me take that on. So the Ways and Means chairman, after I kept bugging him, he said, write me a letter asking to be on my committee. I'll submit it to leadership. If you want another committee, I'll see if I can get you on Ways and Means. And I learned a long time ago that a lot of folks want to be on appropriations. They want to tell you where to spend the money. That's fine. That's not my gig. My jam is I want to figure out where the revenues are, figure out if we can make it a little bit better and maybe reduce those revenues. Steve mentioned Georgia. I think we're the 14th lowest in the entire country as far as per capita taxes and the lowest in the Southeast. We're the 8th largest state. I'd like us to be somewhere in that 5, 6. That's my goal. But it takes an entire group of 180 state house members and 56 senators to work on those things. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you've got to have 91 votes in the House, 29 in the Senate, and then a governor's signature. And navigating that process is fun, challenging, exhausting, and invigorating all at the same time. And then you get that on sine die, and that is one of the most invigorating days of the session. And I've been there so little that it's still exciting. I have some of my peers that are like, no, I hate sine die. I just want to go home. I'm done. But to me, that's really when you start blocking and tackling and finding out, all right, what's the priority? We got a clock. What's going to get done? And that's when we really go to work. So I've also been very happy to see the partnership with the University of North Georgia, the expansion that Steve mentioned. I was able to be at some of those conversations. The Senate does. I love them. But they like to take credit. Not necessarily Steve, but the Senate loves to take credit for everything. They say the House, you guys appropriate, we do everything else. That's not technically true. But I have to pick on Steve since he took up most of the time today. So, but this is his hometown. This is his hometown. And I will say this to the folks that were in Dawsonville. I'm a native of Dawsonville, and I'm one of those. My wife and I kind of always felt like both of the towns are our hometowns. Her family has deep ties here in both Dawson and Lumpkin. She's been a career educator. She's in her 21st year here at Lumpkin County Schools. My kids are both excited about the Lumpkin County Elementary expansion. That's a great example of what local communities do well when they partner between counties and cities, and even development authorities and water authorities and the school system. I got to go to the groundbreaking, and I showed a picture of my wife was like, Dad's going to go to your new school. And so my son, he's 5. He's like, awesome. And so take a picture, and it's just steel beams. He's like, that's not a school. It's like, where's the gym? That's all he cares about, right? PE and recess. Which that's great. And I told him that day, I said, if you guys need somebody to test out kind of that quality control right before you open the building, if something's going to break, put him in the room and he'll figure out if it's going to break. He's at that Eli Whitney stage of life, and it's awesome, except for when you need something before you walk out the door for a meeting called your laptop. He literally took some of my laptop apart a couple of days ago. Yeah, I don't know how he did it because I can't do it and I can't put it back. And I don't tell my boss. I haven't even called him yet. So, but we'll figure that out. Maybe the cybersecurity department can help me with some tech hardware repairs. But ultimately, being at the state capitol, being your voice, has been an honor. And as an alumni of UNG, and just seeing what happens, and just the growth that we've had since I graduated in 2001, and just in the last 20 years, what that is doing for this community and what it can continue to do is just extremely encouraging and exciting to see. The one other thing that I want to tell you about, and then we'll open up for questions. If Steve, you want to come on up. The military tax cut that we passed, I think, was huge. I know last year, people, when I campaigned, that's what they were talking about. I'm like, why are we charging taxes on people that literally dedicated their life to the military to protect us, and we're going to tax their retirement income? Why are we doing that? Well, they shouldn't pay taxes on that. surely we're not generating that much money because so few people have that designation of being a lifetime, contributor to military service. Well, it's a fairly large number, and so nobody's wanted to tackle it. Well, this year, our state Senate, our state legislature got that done and sent it to the governor, and it's been signed into law. And I'm excited that we're going to make sure that we're, to me, it's just the right thing to do. It's just the thank you that most of them don't want to be, put on a stage and given accolades. My father-in-law's a retired military. They don't want to be in the limelight, but they deserve at least that limited recognition. So I'm glad we got that tax cut done too. So that was a bill I was a sponsor on too. All right, with that, I don't know what time we're supposed to be out of here, but we'll save some minutes for some questions. Steve, you want to come on up?
We have about 10 minutes for questions. Got one? Thea.
I want to follow up on a question that we had last year. It was about mental health. I appreciate you guys hearing some of those concerns with Bill 1013. It seems like the bill was still primarily focused on the adult mental health, where we found when COVID hit, our children had to disconnect with teachers, virtual learning, mental health crisis amongst our youth is at an all-time high. You're getting the transportation, you're getting insurance, but what about actually when they get to the facilities to get the help? Are mental health hospitals for our youth as dangerous, to not be able to put it a better way, the personal experience with it? Are you going to do something to follow up with that bill for those hospitals and preventative care before they become the adult statistic that has the mental health?
Yeah, I want to take that question first. I don't know, Steve and I haven't specifically talked about that, but, and I'm going to put Northeast Georgia on the spot here, not just because they're here, but I know they have a passion for serving the community, and mental health is a big part of what they deal with. What I envision, and I'll give my wife the credit, she was telling me a story about a specific student that it's just heart-wrenching. And there are needs out there that are just complicated, and the access to those, just as a rural Georgian, because yes, we're close to Atlanta, but we're still rural, and families need to have access closer to here. And if there's opportunities for us to dialogue with grants and funding to help there be a location, like just even somewhere close to one of the local hospitals, whether that's here in Dahlonega or in Gainesville, or in nearby communities within the footprint of the hospitals that are delivering services in this area, I think that's an opportunity. I'm willing to have those conversations and see if we can find those kind of solutions, because oftentimes there are some long-term needs, but usually they're 90 to 120 day, intensive short-term needs that will be huge, success stories for kids if they can just find that right spot. And families need something closer than Milledgeville or Augusta, and we've got to figure out a way to do that. So I'm willing to work on that, yes.
I think Will covered it well. Anytime you make major change in a policy like this, it's going to take probably 3 or 4 attempts to perfect it. So I believe this was our first step. In next year, the year after next, we'll have to evaluate it and then come back and make some changes. I think having counselors available and being able to identify some of these children and the youth that you're talking about is going to be a critical first step. And then we've got to find the resources to help them, and that's going to cost a lot of money. The budget, I believe we've spent at $161 million to implement this bill. So it's not free. It's going to cost all of us a lot of money. To expand it further obviously takes more money. So you roll it out, get it in place, and then you make changes to it. And I think that's the next step.
Any more questions?
Yes, sir, Ron. Being in politics as a city council person, I know to be mindful of rumors and extended social media comments and so forth, but the topic is transportation.
Yes, sir.
And we heard recently, and maybe Mr. Schmidt and Mr. Hours already have the answer to this as far as representatives here in the city, but in county, but we heard that the Yahula Creek Bridge on Route 60 by Georgia Department of Transportation was going to be closed for a year for repair. I can't imagine anything worse for all of us to go up and down Route 60 to have that bridge closed for a year. true, and if you know much about it, and if you can do anything to prevent that from happening. I think there's got to be ways to repair that bridge without stopping 3,000 or 4,000 students from coming and going every day, and all the people are coming and going. So anyway, do you have any update on that?
Yeah, so there's a group of no-growth people here in the county, and they're happy to hear this. So, now we were thinking about parking all the college students down at the Shasta, and then having a shuttle.
Let's get the river going, right?
Would that work? Now, listen, I don't know if there's any truth to that or not, but I'll give you an example. Over in Suches, if you ever been over to Winfield Scott, you know that little one-lane bridge at the dam. Well, it's being replaced. And initially, the DOT had put out that information that that bridge would be taken out and the new one put in its place, and therefore Highway 180 from Suches to Blairsville would be shut down for almost 6 months to a year. And you can imagine the uproar from the community. So we go back and after the public hearings and we re-engineer it and they come up with a plan. The bridge will have to be replaced. Look, if you look around the state of Georgia, there's probably 6,000 bridges that need to be replaced. We're putting $100 million a year into the bond package in the budget to start that process. Some of these bridges were built in the 50s and 60s. They haven't been replaced in over 50 years. So average life of a bridge is 50 years. So when you cross that bridge, you're putting your life in the hands of some engineers. Hopefully they're educated at Georgia Tech and they know what they're doing. But we've got to replace them. And that bridge is important for our community. I don't think it'll be shut down like the rumors are, but there will be some big delays. Most of the time they'll put a one-lane bypass in around it. So you could see delays like we're seeing right now on the resurfacing to where you would have a traffic light on each end of the bridge and you would have one lane of traffic going either direction. Could take some months of time to do it. We're replacing the bridge currently on 129 at Turner's Corner, and the same thing's going to have to happen there as well. Very expensive, time delayed process, but that's not a good option. Shutting that bridge down for a year, in my opinion, won't work. And we'll make sure it doesn't happen.
And I'll hold him to it. Don't worry. All right. All I heard is that you may have an extended long period of one lane as they approach that. That's what I heard when we had a little bit of an update. And but I will say this: with all the broadband expansion, for those that want to work from home, stay home. Don't get on the road.
Don't go to the outlet malls.
You can still shop online, and we get the tax thanks to the marketplace facilitator. No, I like. You can see we like to go back and forth. He likes to get me. Any other questions? Thank y'all for having us.
Well, on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Dahlonega-Lumpkin County Chamber of Commerce and its Government Affairs Committee, I want to thank Senator Gooch and Representative Wade for not only for joining us today, but for their service to our community and our state. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Northeast Georgia Health Systems. Thanks to our gold sponsor, Truist Bank, our silver sponsors, University of North Georgia and Kinetic by Windstream, and our bronze sponsors, Jackson EMC and the Charles Schwab Office of David Robertson. Thanks to Pueblos for the great lunch today, too, and for Parks and Rec for letting us be in here today. We do have some more of these handouts up here. If you'd like one, you can come grab one. Thanks to you for all attending and supporting the Chamber. Have a great day.